Hi everybody, welcome to my homestead and welcome to my channel. My name is Jared. In this video, we have some updates coming out of Israel. Also have some protests to go over. And then after that, we are going to go through this last general conference because there's a couple interesting things that came up that I didn't realize. So we're going to talk about a couple talks. We're going to talk about President Oak's talk back in 2004. Called Preparation for the Second Coming, because there's some interesting things there. And yeah, and then a couple more things, but let's go ahead and start with Israel. So you remember this? I did a video recently where you had this picture of troops that had essentially taken the parliament building that for Gaza that Hamas was using. And so they captured it. And then the news today, so this was like a couple days ago. This is on the 13th of November when this was published. Well, today they blew it up. Okay. So according to the Daily Beast, Israeli troops blow up Parliament building in Gaza. And then there's a video of it. There it is, getting blown up. So that seems to be a pretty significant development. Because if you'll remember, Israel's objective, according to Benjamin Netanyahu and the Defense Department or the military, is that they want to completely destroy Hamas. They want to take away their governing capabilities, their military capabilities, and specifically to kill every member of Hamas. So it looks like they're doing that. So this took place within the last 24 hours. And then I saw this news today. Maybe you did too. This is from 7 Israel National News. IDF forces operate in Al-Shifa Hospital. And that's significant because the hospital is actually kind of like a cover or a shield for Hamas's main operations center, which is underneath the hospital in tunnels. And so this is kind of like one of the main objectives of this war, take out their central command complex underneath the hospital. So I just want to read a little bit from this article without losing the highlights, please. Oh, okay. So I zoom in and then I'm penalized by my highlights going away. Okay, cool. Whatever. I basically remember where they were. The IDF announced that troops are continuing the precise and targeted operation against Hamas in a specified area in the Shifa hospital, in which they are conducting searches for Hamas terror infrastructure and weapons. Furthermore, the troops delivered humanitarian aid to the entrance of the hospital despite the battle taking place. Before entering the hospital, IDF forces encountered terrorist squads and explosives which were set for them. A fight ensued in which multiple terrorists were eliminated. At least 5 terrorists were killed in the fighting. Hamas has long used Al-Shifa Hospital and tunnels dug beneath the hospital as a main command and control center for its military activity in Gaza. Oh, that's basically it. I guess that was the whole article. Sorry, as I prepared these things, there's like a lot of things I'm looking at. So, okay, so that's it. So they are now there. That's something that we've been, waiting on and watching for quite a while. Let me pull this up. Institute for the Study of War. Just thought about the fact that I want to take a look at this. So for a while, we had been waiting for the ground invasion. It was something like 21, 22 days after the initial October 7th attack that Israel began the ground invasion. And what happened was they surrounded Gaza City as well as Jabalia and these other places. But the main thing that they were going after was Gaza City and Al-Shifa Hospital, which is right here. And so the ground invasion took place. There was some activity beforehand which indicated that it was taking place. And it turned out, yes, that was the very beginning of the invasion. It seemed like the invasion was a red line for Hezbollah and Iran and stuff like that. But they have not fully entered the war at this point. Hezbollah a little bit. But anyway, Israel seems to be making steady progress and they've reached the hospital. And I don't know what happens after this. I don't know if like they go through the entire northern part of the Gaza Strip and clear it of terrorists. I assume that's what's going to happen. And then I've heard commentators talk about the fact that once that's done, once this northern part is taken care of, they need to go south. They've told all civilians in this part of the Gaza Strip to evacuate south, which many of them have, on the order of like 1.1 million that have evacuated south. But later on, the IDF is going to have to come south if they're going to completely eliminate Hamas, because some of them are in the south. So that's where we're at right now. Let's move on from that. All right, talking about Iran and Hezbollah, I came across this today, the Jerusalem Post. Iran's axis of resistance against Israel faces trial by fire. Okay. Iran's supreme leader delivered a clear message to the head of Hamas when they met in Tehran in early November, according to 3 senior officials. You gave us no warning of your October 7th attack on Israel, and we will not enter the war on your behalf. Which is interesting because this is kind of like mixed messaging. Now, this is according to these 3 senior officials, I guess. You may remember, as I've been covering this whole situation, the war, Iran has like threatened a number of times, like, if you don't stop this by this date, then we're going to attack, or we're going to have to intervene. If you continue with this, we're going to be left with no choice. The embassy of Iran in Syria, there was one time that they posted something saying time is up, but nothing's happened except for, some attacks from Hezbollah, just kind of like mediocre attacks in the north. So anyway, let's read the rest of this, and then I have some ideas about this. And I'd appreciate your opinions as well in the comments below, what you think is going on or what you think will happen. Continuing, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei told Ismail Haniyeh that Iran, a longtime backer of Hamas, would continue to lend the group its political and moral support, but wouldn't intervene directly, said the Iranian and Hamas officials with knowledge of the discussions, who asked to remain anonymous to speak freely. The supreme leader pressed Haniyeh to silence those voices in the terror group, publicly calling for Iran and its powerful Lebanese ally, Hezbollah, to join the battle against Israel in full force, a Hamas official told Reuters. Hezbollah, too, was taken by surprise by Hamas' devastating assault last month that killed 1,200 Israelis. Its fighters were not even on alert in villages near the border that were the front lines of its 2006 war with Israel, and had to be rapidly called up, 3 sources close to the Lebanese group said. Said a Hezbollah commander, "We woke up to a war." All right, later. The unfolding crisis marks the first time that the so-called Axis of Resistance, a military alliance built by Iran over 4 decades to oppose Israeli and American power in the Middle East, has mobilized on multiple fronts at the same time. Hezbollah has engaged in the heaviest clashes with Israel for almost 20 years. Iran-backed terror groups have targeted U.S. forces in Iraq and Syria. Yemen's Houthis have launched missiles and drones at Israel. Okay, so there is some stuff going on. This was news to me right here, that what's going on with Hezbollah as a result of this war is the quote-unquote heaviest clashes with Israel for almost 20 years. But they haven't, it doesn't seem that they've committed to full-scale war against Israel. We read an article where a Hamas official said that they think that if Hamas is completely destroyed, that would be the red line for Hezbollah to join the war. I guess that's yet to be seen. Let's read a little bit more. So there's these kind of 3 other things going on. Well, actually, there's 4, really. There's 4. So Hezbollah in the north, and according to this, heaviest clashes in almost 20 years. And then you have these militia groups in Iraq and Syria that are attacking U.S. forces. And then you have Yemen Yemen's Houthis, that group, firing missiles from Yemen to Israel. So those are like the three things happening outside of Gaza. On top of that, I don't know if it's on this map. No, they don't have it on this map, surprisingly. Well, the Institute for the Study of War has also been keeping track of clashes taking place in the West Bank. There are skirmishes and small arms combat and arrests and stuff like that, and raids taking place in the West Bank. So that is happening as well. So Hezbollah, okay, American bases over here, Syria and Iraq being attacked, West Bank, and then Yemen down here firing missiles at Israel. So that's what's currently going on. So it's not like huge. I haven't seen anybody classify it as like a regional war yet, but things do seem to continue to escalate. So we're just going to have to keep our eyes on that. Let's get back to the article really quick. There's one more thing, or a couple more things I wanted to read from here. On October 7th, Hamas military commander Mohammed Deif called on its Axis allies to join the struggle. Quote, "Our brothers in the Islamic resistance in Lebanon, Iran, Yemen, Iraq, and Syria, this is the day when your resistance unites with your people in Palestine," he said in an audio message. Hints of frustration surfaced in subsequent public statements by Hamas leaders, including Khaled Masha'el, who in an October 16th TV interview thanked Hezbollah for its actions thus far, but said, "The battle requires more," quote unquote. Nonetheless, alliance leader Iran won't directly intervene in the conflict unless it is itself attacked by Israel or the United States, according to 6 officials with direct knowledge of Tehran's thinking, who declined to be named due to the sensitive nature of the matter. That was a typo. That was not my fault. Instead, Iran's clerical rulers plan to continue using their Axis network of armed allies, including Hezbollah, to launch rocket and drone attacks on Israel and American targets across the Middle East, the officials said. The strategy is a calibrated effort to demonstrate solidarity for Hamas in Gaza and stretch Israeli forces without becoming engaged in a direct confrontation with Israel that could draw in the United States, they added. And then lastly, actually, I'm not going to read this because it's probably going to drag this on too long. You know, I've seen people question this whole thing, and it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me still that Hamas would just like suddenly conduct this attack. It's been a couple years in the planning, that they wouldn't coordinate or talk about it with their allies, or that the attack itself wouldn't be planned by Iran. So there is, you know, this strategy in war where when you're weak, you try and appear strong, or when you're strong, you try and appear weak. So is this a situation where, like I said before, they're wanting to appear weak? They want to be like, oh no, we didn't know that they were going to do this, because they need this for public support. They need as much support as possible from the Islamic world, and then further than that, the entire world, you know, to get as much support against Israel. Because if they make it look like, oh, look, you know, we didn't know that they were doing this, we're being forced into this, we didn't want to attack Israel, but look how Israel over responded to the Hamas attack on October 7th. They went, it was a disproportionate attack, and now they've completely destroyed Hamas, and they're about to occupy the Gaza Strip. So now we have to step in and do something. I feel like that makes a whole lot more sense rather than, what? I can't believe that you just did that. We weren't ready. It doesn't really make sense to me, but I could be wrong. Put in the comments what you think. So I still think that this really is going to be that final war. Things are happening every day. Things are escalating around the world. In fact, let's move on to the next part here. So according to Israel 365 News and others, it's not just them, but a few other news sites. Okay, there was a 290,000 strong March for Israel that according to this is the largest pro-Israel gathering in history. So that's interesting. Let's read what they say here. Quote, this is from William Daroff, CEO of the Conference of Presidents of Major American Jewish Organizations, at the National Mall in Washington on Tuesday. Quote, we have indeed made history today with over 290,000 of us gathered here on the National Mall. This is the largest pro-Israel gathering in history. So this is what it looked like. I don't know if you knew about this or not. And again, I'm not a huge fan of any sort of protest, either for or against any issue. It doesn't matter if it's my side or not. But as you can see, it's largely peaceful. There's not a bunch of like scuffles and people hitting other people or vandalizing things or rioting and stuff like that. I'll just point that out. But anyway, here it is, the National Mall, a huge rally. Here's a picture. Okay, and then this is at the White House, which is interesting because just like a week before this, like a week or two, there was a pro-Palestinian rally, protest taking place at the White House where people were trying to climb over the fence and they were causing all sorts of problems for, I guess, the Secret Service and DC police and stuff. Anyway, Hillel Fuld says it begins. Thousands of Jews show up in Washington, D.C. for the march. But first, a collective meeting with the CEO. We pray to their creator. Not too difficult to spot the difference between pro-Israel marches and pro-Palestinian marches. That is true. I'm sorry. It's a fact. It is true. There is a stark difference between the two. Here's another one. Okay. Signs and all that stuff, flags. So I have this added to the map. Okay. So this is looking at this month. We've had I've changed the icon. I'm going to use flags instead. That way it's easier to differentiate between pro-Palestinian rallies and protests and pro-Israel. So we have this one in Washington, D.C. There was a big one for pro-Palestine in New York City, MIT. We got another one down here in Austin, Texas. So that's what I have. That's what I'm tracking right now. We also had one that was in London, which was also really big. And then the other one I'm tracking is down here in Melbourne, Australia. Oh, and there's this one that was in the Philippines, and this was actually at the U.S. Embassy. So this was yesterday, this was yesterday, the 14th of November. So just to give you an idea, I'm not going to be able to capture them all, but just to kind of give you an idea of like what's going on and how this war is obviously not just affecting Israel or even the region, but it's like a worldwide thing that everybody has something to say about. And people are getting violent over it as well. Okay, so there's that. I thought I would pull this up too because you may or may not have seen this. Let me know in the comments if you were aware of this, but there are actually Jewish people that are against Israel. And that might be kind of confusing. You'd be like, well, why would they be against Israel? Shouldn't they be pro-Israel? It turns out that not all Jews are happy. Like, and you can see that these are like Orthodox Jews. In fact, they're probably Hasidic, but at the very least Haredi, so like ultra Orthodox. And a lot of them do not want the state of Israel to exist because in their mind, it should never have come into existence in the first place, because there should not be a kingdom of Israel or a country of Israel established that's not established by the Messiah. So they view the state of Israel as invalid, that essentially, these Jews that created the state of Israel, they shouldn't have done that without Messiah and his approval. So it's actually bad and it's wrong. So, and I'm not going to judge, their point of view. I guess every religion kind of has these kind of people that, when miracles take place, they're like, nope, it has to be this way. I understand exactly how it's supposed to happen, and this cannot possibly be it. And whatever, it's really weird, but there you go. And there's actually videos of, and there's some of them that live in Israel that engage in these kind of protests as well, that tear down Israeli flags. And there's videos of police getting into skirmishes with them because they vandalize properties and stuff like that. So anyway, it's just kind of an oddity, but just so you know, you have these Orthodox Jews that are against Israel. Not all of them, of course. There's like a division, but these ones are against Israel. Oh yeah, here's the Sky News article talking about the protest in the Philippines, which I just showed you, so I don't need to go back to that, but there is a video of it. And here you go, pro-Palestinian protest and skirmishes and the police fighting with them. So, all right, let's move on to plant, warehouse, factory fires and explosions. I got this email from Candace Nair. I wanted to send you this when it happened, but at the time you were only tracking capital cities. Yes, there was a time when I was trying to keep track of everything on a spreadsheet and it was just going to be capital cities, but then I ended up tracking more things and then got rid of the spreadsheet, and now I'm just tracking it on Google Earth. So continuing, it says August 6th, Mesa del Sol Recycling Hub. I've attached a picture I saved from Facebook. I'm not sure who took the photo. Best wishes. Thank you for all you do. Thank you, Candace. Thank you for bringing this up. Here's the picture. It's another one of these incidents where there's just like a ton of black smoke. We've seen this a few times. We're starting to track it. Recently, let's go to the map. Recently in Shepherd, Texas, you had this explosion at a solvents for glue and paint remover factory or plant, which produced a lot of black smoke. There was East Palestine earlier this year that caused a lot of black smoke. But now we have this one in, excuse me, at a recycling plant in New Mexico. And although I haven't tracked them all yet, or there's some that I know of that I haven't put on here yet, for some reason, the recycling plants seem to be, catching fire and exploding. I don't know why. I don't know what's going on with recycling plants. If you have expertise in that, let me know if that's like a common thing. The reason why I'm tracking these is because some of them may be genuine accidents, some kind of like accident that took place. Some of them could be sabotage. They could be attacks from foreign adversaries. So I just wanted to track them and just see if we see any patterns and how often they happen and just kind of get a feel for it. Either way, regardless of who's doing it, when you have these disasters take place, it could be a sign of the times. When you have all this like toxic smoke affecting the local community and people getting sick and getting cancer and, this affecting the economy in whatever way it does. So just trying to keep track of it. There is, let's see, there's this article that she gave me, or the link for this article. Fire at New Mexico recycling plant prompts health hazard for hazardous smoke. Here's another picture of it with a fire truck in front of all the smoke. That is just really, really bad looking. I wouldn't want to be anywhere near there while that's going on. All right. And then I got this email from Mary Rowan, chemical fire in Sandy, Utah. My wife lived there for a while when she was growing up. Buildings evacuated due to chemical fire in Sandy. Okay, here is the article from KSL. And this is more recent. This was November 10th, so that was just 5 days ago. Here you can see a bunch of black smoke going up. And I have the place marker for it right here. Okay. So these two are from this month, but this one is from August. All right. And then we got this that took place in September. I just happened across this article. Fire erupts at oil depot in St. Petersburg, Russia. So Russia has actually seen quite a few of these things going on. In fact, let me just turn it all on because... Okay. There we go. So right now I'm tracking 3 different explosions or fires in Russia this year. And these ones I feel are definitely attacks from Ukraine, the West. I don't know. But they're hitting like this one, the one in St. Petersburg, it's a oil depot. This one that was near Moscow was a optical mechanical plant that supposedly it doesn't do this anymore, but at one time produced military equipment like night vision goggles and binoculars and stuff like that. So like what used to be quote unquote a military like factory of sorts. And then this one where let's see, it was an ammunition manufacturing plant in Solikaminsk. So I think there is reason to believe that if this is happening to Russia, and it seems pretty clear that that's why these are catching fire or exploding, that why couldn't they or others retaliate like in the UK or in the United States? So just trying to keep track of it. All right, let's move on from there. Okay, now let's start talking about some church stuff. I got this email from Anonymous. Subject line, October 2023, Sister Wright's talk about preparing for the Savior's return. Hi, Jared. I loved Sister Amy A. Wright's talk in the recent October 2023 conference. She was the second speaker on Saturday morning, directly after David A. Bednar's talk about the last wagon. Sister Wright talks about the parable of the 10 virgins and also references President Oak's talk, Preparation for the Second Coming. If you haven't already looked at this talk in one of your videos, I think it would be worth doing. I thought it was incredible that the conference started with 2 talks that were so obviously referencing the Second Coming. Thank you for your awesome videos, Anonymous. Thank you, Anonymous. And yes, I would agree with you. I think that I have the theory that that very first talk is probably the most watched talk of all General Conference. Some people have suggested other sessions in talks. Like I think someone had said like the Sunday morning or Sunday afternoon. I don't know for sure, but I would think that the very first talk of General Conference would probably be up there if you were like ranking them all by audience and views and how many people watch or, watch the talk. So it could be, as the General Conference was organized, and I don't know who does it. I assume President Nelson, as he's like deciding who talks when. These two talk about Second Coming related topics, and so he wanted to front load General Conference with their talks. So that very well could be. Now, Anonymous mentioned that she cited something from President Oak's talk, Preparation for the Second Coming. This is a talk, before we get into her talk, this is a talk that we've already covered on the channel, but I think it's a really important talk. Number one, because it was by President Oaks. At the time, it was Elder Oaks. He was in the Quorum of the 12 Apostles. This was April 2004. You remember the whole thing where what you've had up until now with the passing of President Ballard is you had President... Okay, I should pull this up. Should have thought to pull this up. Okay, go to my spreadsheet called Prophets Stats. So let me zoom in. So when going by seniority, okay, before M. Russell Ballard's passing, in the number 1 spot was and is President Nelson, and then after that, President Oaks, and then after that, it was President Ballard. So the interesting thing about that, and we've noted this before, is how you have Russell M, that's before President Oaks, and then M. Russell after President Oaks in seniority, as though it's like the two of them with their names are like pointing toward President Oaks. You may think it's silly. I don't. I feel like this whole like chiasmus kind of concept where you have things that point toward the middle, like President Nelson's talks, like I've mentioned recently. I really think that that's a thing. It's a thing in the Book of Mormon with the chiasmus way of writing those scriptures. And it may be one of the ways that the Lord works. So if it's actually President Oaks who becomes the president of the at the time of the second coming, then that would be interesting. So that's interesting to point out. And as we're looking at this talk from way back in 2004, it's a very unique talk. Okay. It's unique because he gives a list, a numbered list of signs of the times to look for. And this is the only talk that I've ever found, the only general conference talk where anything like this has been presented, where he gives basically a bullet point list of these are the signs of the times. And he talks about how important it is to watch for the signs of the times, to recognize them. And then on top of that, so after he gives this talk, this is April 2004, all these signs seem to start taking place, like in earnest. So for example, wildfires. I've shown you this spreadsheet before. This is where I'm keeping track of the largest, deadliest, or most destructive wildfires in these locations: California, Washington, Australia, Bolivia. Okay. And I've worked really hard at this spreadsheet. It's hard sometimes to find some of these. It's not like it's like very well organized in some database. It's hard to find. And the way that it's played out so far is these wildfires that I have on the spreadsheet begin primarily in 2004. I do have one from 1988, when Wyoming had its largest wildfire. You have the Peshtigo fire in 1871. That was the deadliest. But anyway, you can see that starting in 2004, the year that he gave that talk, all these different places start to have their largest wildfires in history. And these are very large fires. The largest fire in California, or the worst fire season in California, plus the largest single wildfire in California, and Australia, and Russia, and Canada, like large places. And then this year, the European Union. So all this is after President Oaks' talk that he gave, listing the signs of the times to look for. Okay, so there's that. We also have earthquakes. So you'll notice here, so just pay attention to these two columns right here, E and F. Okay, you'll notice that this row and this row are especially dark. That's because these 2 years saw the largest death tolls from earthquakes. And in the number 1 spot, you have an earthquake that took place. I better zoom in. You have an earthquake that took place in 2004. It was the day after Christmas. It was the Indonesian earthquake and tsunami. So some of these are from earthquake. Some of these deaths are from the earthquake itself. Some of them are from the tsunami. But to this day, they don't have it really. It hasn't been easy for them to distinguish between who died from earthquake and who from tsunami. It's not like that easy. So, this tracker goes back to 1985. So since 1985, that was the deadliest year for earthquakes. And this was the same year that President Oaks gave that talk. He gave the talk earlier that year in April, and then this happened the day after Christmas. And then we had another very deadly earthquake in 2010. In the number 2 spot, this was the Haiti earthquake, and all these deaths were from the earthquake itself. It was not also from a tsunami. So a lot of deadly years from 2004 to 2011. And then it kind of quiets down. And then this year, we're at the number 5 spot. So I find that interesting. We have wildfires in 2004, earthquakes in 2004, and then hurricanes kind of. Okay, you'll see here that 2004, when you're looking at the total hurricanes column, it's about average with all the years before, but then there's a sudden spike in 2005 with 22. Now, that's not the number 1 spot. The number 1 spot is 1990, but 2005 is tied for the number 2 spot. It's tied with 2014. So that's interesting too, how 2004, 2005, all these things, all these signs of the times that President Oaks had just told us to watch for, they all start to pick up at that time. Okay, so with that in mind, he is cited in this talk by Sister Amy A. Wright, first counselor in the primary general presidency. And this is the second talk of the October 2023 General Conference, right after Elder Bednar's talk about the last wagon. So let's see what she says. Okay. It was a day filled with pointed and direct parables, complex questions, and profound doctrine. After delivering a scathing rebuke of those who were like whited sepulchres, which indeed appear beautiful outward, but are within full of dead men's bones and of all uncleanness, Jesus taught 3 more parables about spiritual preparedness and discipleship. One of these was the parable of the 10 virgins. Then shall the kingdom of heaven be likened unto 10 virgins, which took their lamps and went forth to meet the bridegroom. And 5 of them were wise, and 5 were foolish. They that were foolish took their lamps and took no oil with them, but the wise took oil in their vessels with their lamps. While the bridegroom tarried, they all slumbered and slept. And at midnight there was a cry made, Behold, the bridegroom cometh, go ye out to meet him. Then all those virgins arose and trimmed their lamps. And the foolish said unto the wise, Give us of your oil, for our lamps are gone out. But the wise answered, saying, Not so, lest there not be enough for us and you. But go ye rather to them that sell, and buy for yourselves. And while they went to buy, the bridegroom came, and they that were ready went in with him to the marriage, and the door was shut. Afterward came also the other virgins, saying, Lord, Lord, open to us. But he answered and said, Verily I say unto you, ye know me not. Watch therefore, for ye know not neither the day nor the hour wherein the Son of Man cometh. President Dallin H. Oaks posed the following thought-provoking question in relation to the coming of the bridegroom. So this is from that talk in 2004. What if the day of his coming were tomorrow? If we knew that we would meet the Lord tomorrow through our premature death or through his unexpected coming, what would we do today? I just want to insert something here. You guys, I think it's really, really important to have your temple recommend and to be worthy of it, to be able to answer truthfully and be worthy and have a temple recommend. If you don't have it right now, or if it's getting close to being renewed, I think you should think about getting it or getting it renewed. Okay. Later on in the talk, excuse me, she says, because of Jesus Christ and his restored gospel, if I died, my family would be comforted, strengthened, and one day restored. If I lived, I would have access to the greatest power on this earth to help succor, sustain, and heal me. In the end, because of Jesus Christ, everything can be okay. We learn from a careful study of the Doctrine and Covenants that what okay looks like. And at that day, when I shall come in my glory, This is talking about the second coming. Shall the parable be fulfilled which I spake concerning the 10 virgins? For they that were wise and have received the truth and have taken the Holy Spirit for their guide and have not been deceived, verily I say unto you, they shall not be hewn down and cast into the fire, but shall abide the day. So that's what okay looks like. And he talks about the fact that you need to make sure that you're not deceived. A lot of people are being deceived by the philosophies of the world. A lot. It's very sad. And he gives the hint of how to avoid deception. It's right here. Take the Holy Spirit for your guide, rather than listening to people and their ideas and their politics and whatever else, their interpretation of scriptures. All right, later, and I think this is the last thing, and this gets into something pretty interesting, I think. She says, located in northwestern Israel, put a pin in that, northwestern Israel, is a beautiful mountain range, often referred to as the Evergreen Mountain. Mount Carmel stays green year-round due largely in part to tiny amounts of dew. Nourishment happens daily. Like the dews of Carmel, as we seek to nourish our souls with things pertaining to righteousness, small and simple things, our testimonies and the testimonies of our children will live. Okay, so why do I have northwestern Israel highlighted in yellow? It's because I realized and I remembered that there was another talk this General Conference where Israel, like the modern nation state of Israel, not talking about the church in general and not talking about ancient Israel, there was another talk this General Conference where Israel, the modern nation state, was mentioned. And it's this talk by, this is President Emily Belle Freeman, Young Women General President, walking in covenant relationship with Christ. And this is what she says. I was introduced to a trail in Israel by my good friend Elon. We'll go with Elon. It's called the Jesus Trail, he said, because it's the path from Nazareth to Capernaum that many believe Jesus walked. I decided right then and there I wanted to walk that trail, so I began planning a trip to Israel. Okay, so you have these two that talk about the modern nation state of Israel, which I was like, you know what? I don't think that happens very often, and I wanted to find out. I wanted to find out how often this comes up, because if we go to my phrase tracker, let's zoom in. We had already noted that Jerusalem was used 12 times this year in 12 different talks. And Jewish, the word Jewish was used in 5 different talks. And as you can see, for Jerusalem, you have to go all the way back to 2005 to see Jerusalem used that many times. And you can see just looking at the colors, it's like a sudden spike compared to, the last 10 years. In 2013, there was 10, but then it kind of quiets down. And then last year, only twice. And then suddenly it shoots up to 12. You go back in time, there are some other 12s, primarily in the 70s and 60s, one time in the 50s, but you can kind of see how unusual that is. And then with Jewish, with 5 times, you have to go back, I can't remember, you have to go back to 1968. And then 1959, 55, 54 for Jewish to see it that many times. So my point is that compared to recent history, all of a sudden, both of these terms in the same year see a spike. And then this recent edition of talking about the nation state of Israel, the modern nation state of Israel, all of a sudden you have that twice this year, and both in the same conference. So why is that interesting? I think that's interesting because 7 days after this conference, the war in Israel started. A war that could be the final war. We may be seeing the beginning of that war, Gog and Magog. It's weird for all 3 of these to line up in the same year. Because It doesn't do that in 2005. Here's a 2, here's a 4, just once for Jewish in 2005. It doesn't do that in 1990. It kind of does that in 1985. I think because that was around the time that the BYU Jerusalem Center was constructed. But I don't know, just suddenly you have this spike all across the board, and it's this year that the war started. I think that's really fascinating. We'll have to wait and see what actually happens, but I think that is something to take note of. I had to, with this, I searched the word Israel on the Scripture Citation Index. So let me pull that up really quick. Not like that. Let's do it like this. You go down to search at the bottom right. Only search General Conference. Type in Israel. And what I did, painstakingly, I might add, is I went through and read this little preview for each talk. And I made sure that it was in the context of the modern nation state of Israel. Obviously, the vast majority of the time, they're talking about, for example, Redeemer of Israel, House of Israel, Gathering of Israel, and all the different things like that. So I had to go through all 1,000, well, not all of them. I stopped in 1948 because that's when Israel became a country. So I didn't look beyond 1948. Okay. But it was, about 1,000 or maybe 1,200 different entries to be able to put this together, which was really fun. But now we know. There is one other time that they talk about the nation state of Israel twice in a year, and that was in 1958. But aside from that, you can see it's not very often. It's not very often at all. And then suddenly we have it twice in the same conference, along with these other ones, Jerusalem and Jewish. So, and then on top of that, remember, if you didn't see this video, I would encourage you to go watch it. It's just a few videos back. You'll see it. I think it's called something like "What's That?" on President Nelson's desk. But in this most recent post from President Nelson, November 10th, somebody had noticed a detail in this picture where this card right here, it's talking about the Jews and how the Gentiles are not thankful for the Jews, and they are still the Lord's covenant people. He hasn't forgotten them. They're going to be gathered. I can't remember exactly everything that it said, but it was basically that. And he has that on his desk. And we were considering the fact that, maybe he's thinking about that. If he's the president of the second coming, well, part of gathering Israel is gathering the Jews when their time comes. And that's going to come when Christ comes to them. But I would imagine that there would be leaders in the church, President Nelson included, that would probably give some kind of address at some point to the Jews, maybe special conferences or general conference or whatever happens during the millennium. So it's just interesting that for whatever reason, he has this printed out and it seems to be on his mind at the moment. This scripture in the Book of Mormon talking about the special status of the Jews, that they're still a covenant people, and the Lord has in mind to gather them in the last days and to unite them with the rest of the house of Israel. So a lot of things having to do with Israel and Jews right now in our church, it would seem. Now, I went through the rest of this. The last time that we looked at my phrase tracker, I did not have it organized according to this. Let me explain what I mean. So here, let me zoom out. Okay. Let me zoom out some more. Okay, you can see like there's a line at the top, right? And that's because, there's a rocket attack. Not because of the rocket attack. There's a rocket attack taking place right now, just outside of Gaza. Most of the rocket attacks lately have been small like this. You're seeing less and less like large scale attacks. So hopefully things are starting to kind of wind down, but I guess we'll see. All right, back to this. So the way that I have this organized, put it right there, is I go back to the year 2017. And what I do is from 2017 until present for each of these columns, I take the year that's in the number 1 spot and then line them up in this way. So you can see that for 2023, from 2017 until now, overcome the world was said the most in 2023. Same for Jerusalem, Palm Sunday. You see the line right here? You see how that goes? So basically 2023 is in the number 1 spot for these words and phrases. Overcome the world, Jerusalem, Palm Sunday, and that's because of the April General Conference, promise you, make and keep covenants, last days, tomb, rising generation. And in this case, by quite a bit, you have a 7 for 2023, and then the next largest is 2017 for rising generation. So there's a pretty big spike there. Jewish, flood. Now you can see here it's a tie between this year and last year, so I just go with the most recent year. So flood, coming days, in coming days, which is kind of an overlap of coming days. King of Kings, great glory. Remember, this is a phrase that when it's used in the scriptures, it has to do with the second coming. I did a video about that. He is risen, beyond the mark, 10 virgins, overcoming the world, instead of overcoming the world, withheld, Israel, the state of Israel, bridegroom, and then you have these ones that are in the ones, against the church, marriage feast, royalty, Samuel the Lamanite, abide the day, we are surrounded, pure in heart, preparing the world, Mormon battalion, and leads this church. So that's where we're at for 2023. Now I have it all organized. And if you come here, if you click on the link in the description below for my spreadsheets, you can come here. The name of the spreadsheet or the tab is timeline phrase. And you can, scroll over to the right and go year by year. You can look at the number 1 words and phrases in 2022, and then it go all the way to 2017, if you'd like. Okay. So really interesting indeed. Okay. And then another thing, let me just check on the time. Okay. Yeah, this is good. We're wrapping up now. I came across a new quote that I've added to my 10 Lost Tribes spreadsheet. If you don't know what this is, I don't have this on my quotes A through Z spreadsheet because there's essentially contradictions between some statements of leaders of the church when it comes to the 10 Lost Tribes, whether they're a main group or if they're not. In the early days of the church, that's how they spoke. They spoke as though there's a main group that's hidden, that's still intact, that is going to come miraculously in some way from wherever their hiding place is. But then, starting roughly in 1963, that started to change. And after that, so you have green if they believe that there was a main group. And then it starts to change and turn red in 1963. And I have all these different quotes. And here's the most recent quote. This is from, and I just happened across this as I was looking for mentions of the nation state of Israel in General Conference talks. This caught my eye. So this is from Elder Jeffrey R. Holland in the April 2001 General Conference. And he's going over this scripture, Jeremiah 16, verses 14 to 16. This is one that people will use to, they feel like this is proof, scriptural proof that there's a hidden group of 10 lost tribes. That's what this scripture is referring to. There's the two groups, the group in the north that's still hidden somewhere, and then the other group is just scattered Israel throughout the world. And so they take this scripture and say, see, we know that this hasn't happened yet. I better just read it. Oh, thankfully I have this pulled up. I forgot that I had this pulled up. Okay, here's the scripture. Therefore, behold, the days come, saith the Lord, that it shall no more be said, the Lord liveth that brought up the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt. But the Lord liveth that brought up the children of Israel from the land of the north, and from all the lands whither he hath driven them, and I will bring them again into their land that I gave unto their fathers. Behold, I will send for many fishers, saith the Lord, and they shall fish them, and after will I send for many hunters, and I will hunt them from every mountain and from every hill and out of the holes of the rocks. So people will read this scripture and say, well, we know that this hasn't been fulfilled yet because we haven't seen anything as great as the parting of the Red Sea or Israel being led out of Egypt. And this is exclusively, it has to do only with the hidden group of the 10 lost tribes that have not come out from the North Pole or whatever. Well, this is how Jeffrey R. Holland interprets this scripture. He says, like all prophets and apostles, the prophet Joseph Smith understood the deep meaning of John's request when he said, after all that has been said, our greatest and most important duty is to preach the gospel. I bear witness of that gospel and of Jesus Christ, who embodied it. I testify that the worth of souls is great in the sight of God, and that saving those souls through the redeeming atonement of his beloved Son is at the very heart of his work and his glory. In pursuing that work, I testify with Jeremiah that this last great missionary declaration to modern Israel will, in the end, be a greater miracle than ancient Israel's crossing of the Red Sea. There's people that read this scripture and they say, no, the miracle has to be, the 10 lost tribes coming in a very miraculous way out of the earth, from outer space, from another dimension, whatever. That's how we're going to know that it's a greater miracle than the parting of the Red Sea. And this is now, I think, the third general authority that I have. No, this is the third quote that I have talking about modern missionary work being a greater miracle than Israel's crossing of the Red Sea. So this is back in April of 2001. And then I also have, you might remember, up here, Elder David A. Bednar has said it twice. First, he said it in the Philippines area-wide broadcast, Becoming a Temple-Ready People, where he said, so think of Gordon B. Hinckley in the early 1960s coming here and leaving 6 North American missionaries, and that was it. And look at here, and all throughout the Philippines today. This is a miracle greater than the parting of the Red Sea, and it will continue because of the devotion, the consecration, the faithfulness of the members. So that was earlier this year. It was in February. And then this month, in November, in this Church News article called Mexico Has Been Richly Blessed, Elder Bednar says in Nationwide Devotional. Okay, so this is how it read in the article. So Cortez said after the event, Elder Bednar gave us a broader vision. Like he said, many of us would have loved to see the Red Sea open, but the miracle that we are seeing happen right now is perhaps even bigger than that. So this is now 3 times that apostles have interpreted that scripture, and they say that the miracle that's greater than the parting of the Red Sea is missionary work that's going on right now, gathering scattered Israel throughout the world and from the north countries. So I have that now. There has been one person that sent me an email with more quotes than I need to add that are in favor of the 10 lost tribes. From what I've seen, they're all back here in the past. I may already have some of them, but I will add this at a future time. I'll add those quotes. Okay, lastly, I wanted to address people that are saying that Mecca in Saudi Arabia is flooding. Okay, I don't know where they get their information. I'm assuming that they're seeing the same thing that I do on X from accounts like this, Disaster News. And I've talked about this before. So I go through these different accounts like Volcaholic, Disaster News, and there's some others. That's one of the best ways to be aware of when there's a disaster taking place. But what I have noticed is that not everything that they post is verifiable. So what we're looking at here, this obviously happened. There's a video of it, and I don't think anybody faked this. This is a real video. But that doesn't mean that this took place in Mecca or that it took place recently in Mecca. This could be a video from 10 years ago for all anybody knows. And so if you see things like this, and even if there's a bunch of videos, so for example, there's this one that's, it was posted on the 28th of October. This one is on the 3rd of November. This one says heavy floods in Zarat al-Umrah in Mecca. There's this one from the 3rd of November, al-Nawariya in Mecca. Floods sweep away a vehicle in Taima of Saudi Arabia. This one is in Jeddah, and the date it has here is the 15th. And then another one from the 15th for Jeddah. Okay, so the problem is I can't just go with what Disaster News says. Rarely do I ever see any of them post like a verifiable news story or a way to verify that this is actually accurate. So I have to look at these videos and then I have to go and search for it. The only thing that I have found for floods in Mecca was this from Al Jazeera. Extreme weather brings winds, fierce rains to Saudi Arabia's Mecca. This is from the 23rd of August. And I was going to read this, but I'm not going to. Here they have a video from X. Okay, so there was flooding, it seems. This is from Disaster News, the 22nd of August. You have a car that's floating, partially submerged, crazy flooding, and it's verified by Al Jazeera. So this one, yes, I will put it on my map. And so here it is right here. Here's Mecca. I have the little place mark for flooding, and this is on the 22nd of August. But these ones right here, I can't find anything whatsoever to verify that there's flooding that's taking place in late October or in November. So I don't know how they get these videos. I'm assuming that maybe people submit their videos to this account, or maybe they take their videos from other accounts or something like that. But I don't know. I would love to put this on my tracker if this is happening, but I don't have a way to verify it. Why do I have this up? Rain causes flooding in Saudi Arabia's Mecca province. This is from April. So here's like another thing. Sometimes people get the location wrong. So for example, some people will look at this and be like, oh, Mecca is flooding. But it's not necessarily Mecca, the city. It's the province of Mecca. So it could be some other town. So some people are a little bit loose when they see things like this, and they'll just say, oh, Mecca is flooding, as though the city itself is flooding. There's other things like this. I've been seeing a lot of videos from Brazil, and I had already noted, if we go here, I already noted that in Brazil there was flooding, but the flooding was from, I think it was primarily September. Yeah, this is the 6th of September, the state of Rio Grande do Sul, and then the state of Santa Catarina, the 3rd of October. So you have this part of Brazil that's been flooding, but this was a while ago. And I think that's what a lot of these videos are from. You'll notice that this video, it says it's from Rio Grande do Sul. So that's one of our locations, but this was probably a video from earlier this year, even though Disaster News is just posting it recently on the 3rd of November. And then, I searched for that. I searched for flooding in Brazil, and the most recent article that I can find is this CBS News, and this is from the 7th of September. Brazil cyclone death toll nears 40. And I think we've actually looked at this very article when I was first covering this. I think this was the article that I used to verify it. So if you wonder why I'm missing stuff on here, it's because either I haven't seen it, and so I appreciate you bringing it to my attention, or it's something that cannot be verified. Not to say that it hasn't happened, but there's nothing that I can use. I'm not going to put stuff on here that I can't verify. I need to verify it before I put it on here. Okay, that is going to be it for this one. So if you haven't already, please make sure to subscribe, like this video if you liked it, leave your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. Also make sure to share it, and I'll talk to you guys later.